remember what age I was. I want to say I was like 14, 15. Maybe even, yeah, 15, probably 15. And we were having a huge Halloween party, which was a big deal at school. Like, all the parents were making costumes for their kids, and my friends are like, my mom's sewing me this. She went to the store to go get me that. Everybody's getting all this stuff together because it was a big function for our class, and it was the place to go. And I was so excited. I wanted to go so bad. And I remember calling my mom, you know, and calling her, and she's at the bar. It was on a Saturday, which, you know, they were busy. So my mom was like, oh, we'll be home. And I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting. She's not coming home. And I needed help finding a costume that my mom had been at, like, at a Halloween.
Okay.
Before she wore that costume. And
Right.
I'm like, all right, my mom, I don't have the mom that's going to make me a costume. So let's just find the costume, you know. And it was a devil. And I found parts of the costume, but I was missing parts. And so I kept calling my mom, can you come home, help me find them? She's like, check in here. I checked in there. It wasn't there. I'd call her back. Can you please come home, help me? I'm running out of time. Like, I'm stressed out. I've got a ride from somebody else's mom, you know, like, I really want to go to this. And this went on for hours of me calling, and they finally show up to the house, and they're just loaded. Then they grab more alcohol, more beer, more wine, you know, and they're sitting there at the couch, and they're like little conversation, like they're not ready for that day to end. And I just interrupted them. And I'm like, Mom, can you please help me find it? And my stepdad, and I'm sure I was snotty ass, right? Because I had already waited like 6 hours of calling them at the bar all day long, trying to find this, and I'm stressed out. And I'm asking my mom, can you please just help me find this, you know? And I've been waiting, you know? My stepdad's like, he's like, well, he spouts off something like Cheree's being a bitch and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, he had never called me a name before, you know? And I didn't have a whole lot of respect for my stepdad. You know, to me, he's the drunk guy that made my mom drink more and be gone more. You know? And yeah, so I came back in the room as I walked away to go just like kind of like, wow, that's what he just said, and I'm screwed right now, you know, and I didn't want to have a lame costume, you know, and I was so pissed. I walked back in there, and I was like, I remember looking at my mom, telling her, at least I have enough respect for you not to call your husband a fucking in front of your face.
Oh my God.
My stepdad flew up and started chasing me, and I was like, oh shit. Turn around, hightailed it to my room, ran in there down that hallway that he bounces off of all the time, and I turned around in my doorway in my bedroom because I knew that was my safe place, and I didn't want him in there. And I was standing at the door, and he starts screaming at me, and he lifted his hand to hit me. And that's all she wrote. I blacked out. I kicked his ass. We wrestled all the way down that hallway. And at the end of the step, I picked him up. We both fell on the ground, and we were wrestling around. And I came to. It was almost like a blackout. And I was so angry. You know, I'm having a blackout. They're drunk, right? I'm
so
sober, right? I'm young
well.
and not drinking at all. And I kind of came to with my mom's hands around my neck choking me, and she's choking the air out of me, and I know I can't breathe, and I barely have any way to speak at this point. And I was like, I remember looking her in the eye and just asking her to please just do it. And my mom was like, she took her hands back and looked at me, and I remember at that moment I just wanted to die. I was like done with this world. Like, it was too much, you know? And my mom gets up and calls my fear-based dad, right? The biker who has all the rings, the full sleeve tattoos, getting on his Harley. He was the threatening one that was going to scare us. Get down here. Cheree just got in a fist fight. So my dad actually hopped in his Porsche and flew to our house in like 5 minutes from a 10-15 minute drive.
Jeez.
I could hear him screeching down, and I didn't even care. I didn't care what he was going to do. I remember thinking, like, I just don't care anymore, you know. And I told you earlier a story of how my mom divorced somebody who put hands on my sister, and she protected her. And at this point, my mom didn't protect me, you know, and she never let a man hit us or harm us or even discipline us in that manner, you know. And by this time, I'm like 14, 15. It's a little late, right?
Right.
So I remember at that point, I could hear my dad, and he is like kicking the front door open, and he walks in and he goes, "Where is he? He hit my daughter." And he walks down, and then my stepdad ran out the back, and yeah, my mom threw me out of the house.
Oh my God.
And I had to go live in my dad's biker world. Which wasn't fun, because obviously anything that brought me any kind of peace were my friends I went to school with.
And you had to move further.
Yeah, and I had to move further, so I wasn't in the neighborhood. Like, my best friend was like 3 blocks away from me. So then I had to go live with my father for a little while, and my mom was requiring me to apologize. Apparently, I'd broken my stepdad's leg. And yeah, so I guess, like, and it was a big break. So I don't know. So I had to sit here and go through a whole bunch of stuff, you know, because my dad didn't really have a lifestyle of me living at his house. You know, there was people in and out. It was a different kind of lifestyles. A lot of drugs around. Wasn't something that I really was comfortable with. And, you know, my dad also kept even worse hours probably than my mother and stepdad. But I remember calling, and my mom was like, "You can't come home, Cheree, until you apologize to your stepdad." And, you know, I was so pissed. I was just like, I remember getting on the phone, talking to my stepdad, and being like, "I am so sorry I broke your leg." You know, like, it was like not sincere. It was just kind of like, yeah, if you ever put hands on me again, it's going to be really bad, you know? Because, yeah, it was funny as my mom, like, you know, they always, like, after that point, were like, "Wow, don't make Cheree mad." You know?
She'll break something.
Don't do that, you know? And it's almost like I wasn't allowed to be angry. You know, I was the girl who played softball all the time to where my parents didn't come. My dad, maybe he came and saw one softball game, and I played for years. My mom, it was a nuisance. You know, I went through high school. If I had a function or anything I was at, my mom would be like, "I already paid for your sister. Go ask your dad. It's his turn." You know, my dad wasn't much of paying child support. But now it became my burden, you know, because I guess my mom felt like, you know, if I didn't get good grades, which the way she kind of did things, I didn't care to. You know, like, my mom was done with me by the time it was in high school. She didn't have to provide anything. You know, I got a job when I was 15 and a half to make sure that I was paying my stuff. I wanted to play softball. I was in JV for high school softball. I got accepted, and I remember my mom, me telling her what the schedule was and how it was I need help, you know, because I need to get to the games, I need to be there, all these things. And I remember my mom saying, "You have to work." And softball was the one thing that, like, was part of my happiness, you know, and kept me connected to school. And when I had to choose working, you know, at that point, I didn't care to be at school.
I wouldn't either.
I ditched school so much. Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school, babe?
I went to Torrance High.
Which
what?
Which was in what? Filmed 90210.
Yeah, where 90210 was filmed.
90210.
Yeah. It wasn't in Beverly Hills. Yeah, it was at my high school. They filmed, I think, my senior year they started. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a beautiful high school. I went to school with a lot of people that were free thinkers. We weren't very conditioned on our parents and our parents' beliefs. It was more of like, it was a sense of community. Yeah, we looked out for each other in high school. It was a great experience. I was openly gay in high school, which was pretty cool, because I wasn't like popular, but people knew who I was, and
The gay thing wasn't an issue.
it wasn't. It was really, it was amazing that I had so many friends that just kind of saw me for me. I want to say, like, one thing that I say now in my adult life is kind of judge people by character, not about who or what, race, religion, beliefs, blah, blah, blah. Just, if they're nice to you. That's kind of like how the people where I went to school with. It's like they saw Cheree. I was seen, which was really nice. And a lot of love there,
So that helps.
A lot of good friends. Yeah, that helped. So, it went on to, Cheree still being stupid, which I was losing credits because I was ditching so much, losing credits to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom just was still on her tangent of, you're not graduating, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. I mean, I heard it for years and it intensified, especially my junior year and my senior year. And I went to a vocational school to make up some credits, and it was called SCROC. And I got my EMT. The first time I took that class, I really loved it in the very beginning, and then something told me that I wasn't smart and I wasn't going to be able to do it, so I kind of stopped going. And my mom came searching for me, and I wasn't there, and she met my teacher.
Geez.
Yeah, my teacher looked at my mom and he goes, when you see her, can you tell her to please come back because she's one of my best students?
Oh.
And my mom told me that, and I was like, oof, we're going to re-enroll and do this. And I graduated like top 3 of my class, did mountain rescue, which at that point I should have realized I'm not dumb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a very difficult, complicated class. And I was interested, so I got good grades and it felt good. I got some sort of like validation that I was important to somebody, so I excelled. It was one of those things. But I got those credits, and then I was still short a couple credits, and my mom, I'm like, what are we doing for my graduation party? Because my mom, like, for my sister, like, got plane tickets to Hawaii, Waikiki, 10 days, sent her with like 4 or 5 grand, ridiculous amounts of money for somebody young back then, upgraded her best friends to first class. It was just so crazy. But my mom was like, you're not going to graduate, so she wasn't going to plan anything, sort of. And I was like, no, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to do this. And by the skin of my teeth, I graduated and got to walk with my class. And so my mom threw together this last minute party, inviting my family, my aunts and uncles, and everybody who really doesn't know anything that's going on within this household. My mom was very appearance, I'm going to appear to be this. I'm going to show. My mom used to sit there and tell stories about raising me and my sister, and I used to be like,
Who are you talking about?
who's she talking about? And it was always like, who are you talking about? I had no idea, like, where she got some of these stories, And the sad part about it is I think a lot of my family at that point, they believed what my mother would tell them, and I imagine I was the problem,
Of course.
I can remember picking my mom up from the bar. She would call and be like, I need a ride home. And I'm like, drive safe. Like, don't, and she used to drink and drive like freaking on a daily basis. And I used to get worried when she would stay there later, and yeah, I remember showing up to the bar where she would call me up and she'd be like, forget that she had called me and told me she needed a ride. And she would scream at me in front of all of her friends at the bar, oh, you know, because she always had this like underneath anger and ugliness towards me, you know, and I'd be like, oh, let's go get in the car, you know, something. But where was I going with that?
Your family, the family that's at your graduation party is everybody
Yeah.
that didn't really know
Didn't really
anything
know
that's going
me,
on.
didn't really know what was
Yeah.
going on, didn't really know the severity of it, you know, and I'm sure in all of their eyes, my mother was like Mother of the Year,
Right.
you know, so she invited all these people there, and I remember I was like, oh, I made it through school, you know, and I wonder what my life is going to be. And a couple of my friends came over because there was supposed to be some sort of party. And I remember being in the room and my mom coming in being like, Cheree, get out here. Everybody is here for you. And, you know, you're staying in your room and you're not visiting with everybody and they're all here for you. And I remember just telling my mom, no, they are here for you. Yeah. Remember, I'm the dumb one. You didn't want me to have a party. And they're here to tell you good job. You had 2 daughters that graduated. It was like nothing was planned. I think like one of my gifts were a box of change that somebody dumped out of their stuff. You know, gifts. It was just all not organized, not prepared. You know, it was like thrown together at the last minute. And, you know, that's how I felt like growing up is it was all, I was an afterthought, you know. I was the problem. But I remember my mom telling me that she drank because I was gay.
What?
Yeah. I would have lengthy conversations with my mom. I went to ACA meetings when I was really young, adult children of alcoholics, to try to get an understanding on what was happening in my life, you know. And my mom, I always used to say, what if you just quit drinking? What if you know, at one point she admitted she was an alcoholic.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We tried to go to therapy at one point. We were going to therapy, and she would tell the therapist certain things and then do something different at home to where the therapist finally was like, yeah, are things better? And I'm like, no, she's still going to the bar, doing everything. And then he goes, oh, I can't see you guys anymore. And I was like, why? He goes, because your mom's lying to me. And I was like, but it was helping me. You know, I thought there was hope that we could get through. But yeah, she was, no, I'm at home. I'm with her, you know. But it was like everything was, I was the problem. It wasn't the fact that she wanted to be at the bar all the time, that she didn't want to raise me, that my sister was all of her effort and she was finished. You know, if I was just somebody who never said anything and never did anything, you know, I didn't ask for this life.
You didn't?
You know, like I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask to be here, you know, but it would have been really cool if I had some parent, you know, that was there, and I just didn't, you know. And then my father, you know, like he really wanted to be a dad, you know, but meanwhile my mom's sitting there going, he's a bad man, he's an awful man, everything bad about my dad. So I don't have any memories of my dad and connecting when I was younger. You know, there's some stories of camping that I remember that were joyful, you know, but he was in and out of my life, you know. And it's wild because my sister has a different perception, I'm sure.
Of course.
But she's 3 years older.
Yep.
So my mom wouldn't have these conversations that were so awful when my sister was there. It was when she was gone. And it was just me and my mother. And every day she would wake up and not remember what she said the night before.
Because she was so drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. But that will be the first segment. I'm done. Yeah.
So yeah, that's born up to graduation, and that's a lot.
And that's not even the half of it.
It's not, but that's, you were alone.
Yeah.
There's going to be more segments, and we'll really just get to find out how you got where you were or where you are now, because you didn't want to live. You weren't asked to be brought into this world, but you weren't cared for, like loved, nurtured. So it's very interesting to see how you got here.
Right.
All right.
There's a whole lot more chaos to come. Stay tuned.
Coming soon. Stay tuned.